Welcome to the Bergstrom Bunch podcast. I'm Jason.
And I'm Kathy.
So we've had an adventurous couple weeks. We did a little getaway and went hang gliding.
Yeah, fun times.
Yeah, so neither of us have been hang gliding before, but I kind of knew what to expect.
And heights are not necessarily my forte. I get a little nervous when it gets too high.
I wanted you to go first because I knew you didn't know what to expect, and I knew that was something new for you. So tell me about how that went.
I should have really thought about it. When you think about hang gliding, what are you doing? But I didn't even think about it. But yeah, when I was getting strapped in, and I'm waiting to be launched into the air, all I could think about was this rope that went from the plane to my hang glider, and I kept staring at it, and the rope looked like pretty beat up, like really used and frayed. And I just kept thinking, oh my goodness, is that going to break? Is that going to snap? Yeah, is that going to snap? It was. I felt like that was my lifeline. So I thought we would be up in the air and I'd be roped the whole time, from the plane to the hang glider. And I had no idea. And I just kept thinking, I'm going to be the first casualty. I know it. That rope's going to snap and I'm just going to be going, woo, And I'm looking around, and we're up high and you see all the trees and it looked like a miniature village down there, I mean, that's how high we were. And so anyway, so I went tandem, of course, and then the guy that was with me said, oh, he just gave us the signal. And I thought the signal meant that we were going to start our descent. As it turns out, the signal meant that the rope was going to detach. Next thing I know, the rope's gone, the plane's flying away, and I'm thinking...
You're gliding.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's when it dawned on me, okay, this is hang gliding. Really, I should have thought about this.
What, did you have a good time?
It was fun. It was fun.
Tiniest plane I've ever seen. Pulls you up to 2,000 feet and releases you.
Oh, and then when he was done, he would dive bomb down. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
So
fun times. So I'm sure everyone listening has a crazy Walmart story. Who doesn't? But recently you had
a crazy Walmart sighting where you're seeing weird stuff at Walmart.
That's why you go to Walmart. But you had a crazy Sam's Club story.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
A little bit crazy. Well, actually, I got a job at Sam's Club for an hour. That's really what it boils down to. So I went in there to set up my membership. I was switching it over, and customer service was just completely packed. The long line, and there was one gal working, 2 computers. And so anyway, by the time I got up there, I could tell she was just really flustered and just stressed out. And but she's a really nice girl though. And so anyway, she gives me the paperwork, I fill it out, then she has me come behind the counter and put it in, type it in the computer. Because it would be faster for her than, me spelling everything out for her. So anyway, so she sets me up, shows me how to do it, then gives me the card, has me swipe it, so all the information's on the card, and she goes over to the other computer and begins helping another customer. Well, so people started coming up to me. They thought there were 2 lines instead of just one person working. So they started coming up to me. So I just replicated what she had me do. I gave them the paperwork. They filled it out. I had them come behind the counter, put their information in the computer. I grabbed a card and swiped it. And so she looks over at me and says, oh, girl, you need a job here. And I said, no. I said, I already have a job. I'm good. But she thanked me for helping her out. But I signed up a few memberships that day. So
Did you get any commission?
No commission. But I was offered a
free
job,
samples?
So
free,
no
what
free
samples.
The hot dog,
the pizza,
no free samples, and I wouldn't be able to eat them right now anyway.
Am I thinking of Costco, or do they both have that?
They Sam's Club.
Slice? Okay.
Oh, pizza slice. I don't know. I have not been to their concession stand in a while, so yeah. And it's crunch time for me. My coach has me on a pretty strict diet right now.
No churros.
Yeah, so no churros, no samples going on for this girl.
But that's a cool thing, because at our gym we've had people come into the front desk. Now we've got a lot of great people, but we've had some people just come up and unload on our front desk.
Yeah,
or on a
pretty
coach.
Recently.
Something outside of the coach's control, outside of the front desk. It's unload, and that's kind of what we want to talk about today. Is that there's people that seem like they are just have this mindset of taking whatever they can out of life and from others.
Yeah.
And there's other people that have a giving mindset.
Yeah.
How can I give? How can I add value? And
well, I think the biggest thing is that they're carrying so much hurt or so much anger, and they have to unload it somewhere.
Yeah.
So, that's the challenge too. When somebody unloads on you and you're just flabbergasted because you don't know why.
Well, a lot of people, it's because of her. I think there's some people that just never outgrew the toddler phase, right? If you think about a toddler, who is in it for themselves more than a baby or a toddler?
Yeah.
Everything is about what makes me happy, what are my needs, feed me, change me, entertain me. But
we're pretty needy creatures for sure.
But have we not seen people with that same attitude at work? Coworkers that are just, what can I get? How can I? I worked in sales for 6 years and on commission, and there would be a family that had called in to purchase tickets. I sold airline tickets, and they had talked to someone else who helped them for an hour, and they had to consult with their spouse and said, well, let me call you back. And I had coworkers that they're maybe 3 cubicles down from that first person, and they'd lean into the microphone, lean into their cubicle and say, oh, they've already went home. Let me take that for you. And though they would lie.
I hope that never happened
to take
to
their
you.
Commission. I honestly don't know.
Because we needed the money, so.
But it's sad. Like, what can I take?
Well, that's what I love, though, actually, about our ninja community is that we have so many giving people. But additionally, even the kids, and I know we've created a culture for this, but even the kids, I remember at a competition, one of the kids sharing with another guy kind of how he was going to approach the obstacles. And the kid's dad comes over and he says, hey, don't be giving away the beta. And his son said, Dad, we all help each other. Yep, and so that's that mentality of I'm not just out for myself. I'm not just looking out for number one.
Yeah. So I saw this story recently about these supercars that are abandoned in Dubai. And I mean, everyone in Dubai is wealthy, but there's junkyards of Ferraris and Lamborghinis and Bugattis just wasting away.
Yeah.
And there was one, it was a $4 million car, abandoned. And so these people discovered it, and they researched, who does this belong to? And it belonged to the president of one of the poorest countries in the world. So you think about this taker mindset, and his people are starving, they're struggling to get through, and yet here he has a $4 million car that he can just let rot
of luxury
in Dubai. And aside from his mansion, his yacht, all the luxuries, while his people are just scraping the bottom of the barrel. And what a huge taker mindset of, hey, what can I extract out of life? How can I milk everything out of my people, where he's supposed to be a civil servant? But thankfully that's the only politician we can think of who's in it for themselves and not for their people.
Oh, babe.
You think there's more than one politician that's in it for themselves?
Well, I won't name names, of course, but it is becoming more and more countercultural to be a giver versus just having a mindset of taking what I can get. And I mean, even bringing up politics, every congressperson is looking for how much money they can extract or extort for their state or for their constituency, their people group, their and every time you turn on the TV, it just seems like there's more and more being heaped upon us that kind of creates this mentality of I got to get what's mine while I can.
Yeah.
And so, we do, and we are selfish by nature. It's counterintuitive to just give without any expectation of something in return.
Isn't it sad to see someone in that kind of a relationship too?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so many times you see someone in that relationship maybe break it off and find the exact same guy just with a different name who's also selfish taker and is just taken from this poor girl, or vice versa. It's not just guys, but it tends to be mostly that way.
Yeah. I think too, as we think about the difference between givers and takers, and I think we all have an element of that for sure. We all go through seasons where maybe they just, that selfish nature does just kick in because your needs are going for so long unmet that you can't help but to just try to extract from everyone else. But I do think that it's a choice that you make. You can choose to focus on being intentionally more of a giver, of stepping into situations or when you experience people adding value to their life rather than taking.
Yeah. So I do want to press into how do we get there, but I want to segue into this. Do you think 2020 created more takers or not?
Well, do we want to go into the looting? In fact, I just saw a clip. Oh man, a Target, I think it was, Target or Walmart. One of them was just raided down in, here in Florida. Yeah. And I don't know which part of Florida, but I think it was somewhere in South Florida, but just...
That was a Target, I remember that.
Oh, okay, a Target, yeah. And so, and 2020 was a really bizarre year for so many. And yeah, I do think so, because as far as you think about how many people were just bitterly angry at each other. You had do you mask, do you not mask, do you close down, do you open back up?
The fear.
Yes, yeah, and fear does creates a more selfish mentality.
Well, you know what I think about it? I think that it's been said that crisis is an accelerator. I don't think it created more takers. I think it brought more of that taking attitude to the surface. Because there's people that are very generous and very giving, and in spite of their fear, it was this attitude of, how can I share my Lysol? How can I provide masks? How can I've got extra toilet paper. Yeah. How can I seize
survival
the opportunity to be a blessing to someone else? It's a rough time, but hey, here's a chance to serve.
Yeah, but for most, it seemed like survival mode just kicked in. I mean, think about it. All of a sudden we had a toilet paper shortage. I would go to Sam's Club or Costco, and all the toilet paper would be gone. And I'm thinking, how much are people going to the bathroom? Did 2020 kick in like some sort of diuretic? I don't know. But anyway, they were always gone. And then when they did replenish them, it was, one per household. And so it just, it created, I don't know if it created shortages or if people were creating shortages simply because they were overstocking.
So then here's the question. If we know what a taker mindset looks like. That's easy to identify. We all know those people who are just selfish. If there's a buffet, they're first in line, they're going to load up on all the roast beef and the cheesecake, and then when the last people in line are about to start, they're already in line again with a new plate, right? We know those people.
Sure.
But how do we develop the mindset of being a giver? How do we grow into that? Because I don't think it comes naturally for us.
No, it doesn't. I think it's like anything else. You have to plan for it and be intentional about it. I think for myself, there was a time when I thought, you know what, I really want to be more of a giving person. I want to be someone that I'm looking for opportunities to add value to someone's life, whether it's just through our interaction or if it's monetary or opportunities even. And so when I started switching my mentality to that of being very intentional with it, things just started happening. Opportunities for myself to be a blessing in that capacity to others just emerged all over the place. And so, I mean, interestingly, like I have people all over the place that I know, and it's only because, the gas station down the street, instead of when I tanking up and going, I started going inside, and I met these women that work there, and they're from all different walks of life. Actually, one of them got out of prison not too long ago, and so anyway. So I just got to know these women, and I sort of figured out too when these women work. And that's when I would go and tank up, and I'd go inside and just have conversations. It kind of became social hour for us. And these women are not women that, in general, I would be spending my time with, We just come from very different backdrops and have different interests. But anyway, but just meeting these people and adding value to their life. So now anytime I come in, they get all excited to see me, and we have a lot of laughs and things. And I brought you in there to meet them.
I did meet a few of your friends. So I mean, I think of one got out of prison recently. I'm not sure if I met her or not, but those are either the wrong friends to have, or maybe they're the right friends to have. Maybe that's who you need in a rough situation.
Well,
bring my prison gang friends.
Yeah, she's got a teenage daughter though, and she's trying to get her life on the right track. And it's interesting though, because her teenage daughter has been having problems. And so she is not a church-going person, but she put her daughter in a Christian school. And I always find that interesting, that when we go through hard times, or we see people that maybe their selfish mentality is leading them to do things that are going to be harmful for them in the future, we lean towards a Christian institution, knowing that they're going to get those kinds of values. And so that's where I would just say that really, too, because human nature is to look out for ourselves, to look out for number one, to kind of take what I can while I can. That this idea that for God so loved the world that he gave, and he gave at great expense to himself, so that we would know the way back to him and be able to have that nature inside of us changed through receiving his Spirit to turn the tide for us. So that we could by nature be more giving, be more selfless. And it still is a choice, and it still is something that you have to work on and mentally think about. But I always go back to Jesus makes us care about the things we would otherwise not care about. And when you care, your actions are a reflection of that, and your attitude, and what you contribute to someone's life.
Yeah. So there was something that God challenged me with several years ago on that front, is looking for opportunities to pray for people. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a go up and talk to a stranger type of a guy by nature, but
really, shocker.
I felt challenged by it, so I made a commitment to God that this is something I was going to do. And what happened was I started coming across people that maybe in crutches, or people coughing in the Walgreens, and I would offer to pray for them. Hey, you seem sick. Now sick people just hole up inside, but a few years ago that wasn't the case. No problem sneezing all over the store, and just offering to pray for people I had never met before. And really, it's a question of, how can I be a blessing in this situation? How can I share God's love and grace? How can I add to add positivity, add God's love to a situation where it otherwise would be lacking?
Yeah. Well, and to take time out of our schedules to do that. Often I think we live such a busy life, and we have to get from point A to point B in sprint time, that we look at people more as an interference to that goal and an inconvenience, and so we don't bother to give of ourselves to people in that capacity, just simply because it is an inconvenience for us. But I've just found that the more I do take the time to meet people, to hear their stories, and I think especially when I look at 2020, it just, for me, kind of triggered this understanding that we need to be far more intentional about networking as a people. We're so spread out, and we're so independent of one another. We might have our little people groups, and some don't. Everything is online on their, social media, and so I just became even far more focused on how many people, especially in my area, can I meet, and just talk to you. And so that's even what led to, the Sam's Club experience, is because I do talk to people all the time. And so then for me, it's just kind of this mentality of, well, how can I help out? What can I do? What can I give in this situation? How can I be a contribution?
Well, one thing I like to think about is, what if everybody did that? What if everyone had an attitude of, how can I add to the situation? Because I think of even our gym, where there's people that come in and they see something that's not perfect, and so they critique. You get a negative review, they go off on a coach, they send an email of everything they're unhappy with. And fortunately, that's the minority. We don't see that often, but we usually see people that see something that could be improved, and they'll share with us in a very helpful, very supportive way of, hey, here's an idea. We've had people see, hey, this gym really could use this type of trampoline. I'll give the money, especially in the beginning when we were bootstrapping everything, and everything relied on volunteers.
It was amazing how everyone came together.
I'll kick in for more pads. I'll kick in, and so I could complain, I could raise a stink, or I can contribute. I can just add. And what if everyone had that attitude of, what can I add to a situation?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and too, of course, with the gym, we dedicated it fully to God and His purpose, and invited Him to be a part of it, and just to fill the place with His presence. And so I think whether people realize it or not, there is kind of a spirit of selflessness, of generosity in our gym, in large part, I believe, because we did invite God to be king over it. As I think about that, I mean, some of these ninja parents that we have are just, they're just wonderful, wonderful people. You know, I think of, I'm going to throw out some names. I'm going to name drop. I think of Kara, Ace's mom, who would she came in, and we didn't have, behind the counter, we didn't really have a lot of help, and she jumped right in there. She learned the system, and she helped us out, and
there all day for the competitions.
Yeah, and be there all day. Yes, exactly. And then of course Mark and Lainey, they're just fantastic people. And Lainey is one that anytime there are birthdays, or certain holidays, she'll buy the coaches gifts, and the girls all get flowers and things like that, and she's just so incredibly generous with all of that, both of them. And then
I just can't keep up with her on that. Remembering birthday parties, I'm horrible, and I'm glad Lainey steps in.
But her and her husband both, I think of the number of times that we've had young people come into our community and they don't have jobs and they need a job. And all you had to do was call Mark up and say, hey, I got this kid. And, he'd find out, okay, well, which McDonald's does he want to work at? And he'd set it up for them. Yep. And so people that really just are looking for opportunities to be a blessing and to use their resources for that purpose. Yep. I just think it's amazing.
Yeah, we can't forget Mark and Christine as well.
Oh yes, yeah, Mark and Christine. Yeah, they've been a blessing to the gym too. I mean, there are so many parents that we could. You got the mom squad, so there are numerous individuals that we could name drop. I'm just thinking of some specific instances where, Mark and Christine, they've definitely been very generous to the gym as well. So, and promoting us, and we've just been really blessed to have a wonderful crew of people.
So since a lot of those parents have kids, let's think about this idea of, just for a moment, of parenting and raising kids and trying to develop in kids this selfless mindset, this idea of being a giver rather than a taker. Since we all start off as takers, it's something that doesn't come naturally. Some more than others, but how do we cultivate that?
Yeah. It's a challenge, especially when we are becoming more and more me-centric. I mean, really, all you do is pull up Instagram, or you pull up, any social media, and it's really, that's all you see is, hey, how good can I look?
Like me, love me, notice me.
Yeah, exactly. How many likes do I get? How many followers? So it really is just this whole culture of me-centrism, and that we're not going to be able to change that on a cultural scale. So it really does. I mean, obviously it starts in the heart of people, but I also think that it then becomes, when you're consumed with the thought that I want to be more of a blessing than or the recipient. I'd rather be more giving of it than receiving it. Then you create a culture around you where that just sort of spreads. Yeah. And that's what I see in our gym as well, is that culture has been created. So I think when it comes to parenting, you've got to create that culture in the home.
You got to model it. Mm-hmm. Well, so here's another thought I had on that, is giving kids a responsibility. I always had the mindset that I don't want my kids to remember a time in their life when they didn't have chores. Mm-hmm. That as far back as they can remember, if you can waddle around, you can pick up toys.
Brittany may be the only one that can remember when she didn't have chores, and that's only because we didn't get married till she was 4 years old.
Yeah, I had to correct that right away. But if they don't have a contribution that's meaningful, like if a kid cleans their room and they've done the best they can, but you come in and criticize, then their contribution wasn't meaningful because it wasn't good enough. Or they sweep, and no kid's going to wipe off the counter and sweep perfectly. But if they've done a good job, to affirm that, wow, look at what you did. It's so helpful. And they begin to see that their contribution makes a difference. It's valued. It's appreciated. That they can do something meaningful. And when you understand that your contribution matters, God has wired all of us to make a contribution in this life. And if you never feel like anything you do matters, then it's demotivating.
Yeah. Well, I think too that just going back to modeling it, that we had, well, I won't throw a name out there, but we had someone that was on the show that got the mega wall, and the proceeds from that.
And the show American Ninja Warrior.
Yeah, the show.
Yeah. Make sure we have some context.
American Ninja Warrior.
So when you get the mega wall, the mega 18-foot tall warp wall, you get $10,000.
Yes, and then second time you get $5,000. So this person actually made it the second time, and he donated the proceeds from that, and so fast forward. He, as a coach, he coached a young man who also won the show, won $15,000, and in turn he donated his proceeds as well. Yeah. And so I just see that, like I said, it's a culture that you create when you're demonstrating, hey, I want to be more of a giver than a receiver. And sometimes it's not even a matter of just advertising it, because the initial person who got the mega wall didn't advertise, but he was asked, even by the show, what he did with the money. And so that's when he volunteered the information. But I just see that when you yourself choose to take on that mentality of being a giver versus a taker, it spreads. It's something that you can impart to so many other people, and it just creates an environment where people really do want to be a contributor rather than someone who just takes.
Well, because you can tell someone to do something or encourage them to be a contributor, but culture is stronger than that. Now, culture is caught rather than taught.
Yes. Now, I will say the counter is true as well. And what I mean by that is I just think of environments where you do have a lot of contributors, but then there are people who come in who might be very needy type of people, and they see, oh, everybody's doing everything, therefore I don't have to do anything. So you are going to have, those types of people that are just going to come in and get what they can and then go. But if you create a culture where the majority of people feel that sense of being a blessing and a benefit to others, and certain attitudes are not tolerated, and people are more kind of congruently moving in a specific direction of being a blessing to each other, then when you do have those people that come in that are generally more takers, it doesn't affect you quite in the same way, because you have so many people around you that are such a blessing to each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
Well, good stuff. It's so important. And we all can feel the value of someone who's generous in our life.
Yeah.
And if everyone was that way, if everyone had attitude going into, I don't know, even a get-together at a friend's house, and you say, oh, man, this is boring. I thought this party was going to be fun. Man, they don't even have salsa and guacamole. And you could complain about it. You could think your friend's lame, or that family's, or you could do something about it, chip in and help out and start making things lively and fun.
Yeah. Well, I think too that we don't realize how good it is for the soul. Just how good it does make you feel on a regular basis to have that mindset of I am here more to figure out, hey, how can I bless somebody? How can I benefit somebody? What can I do? And I just think, and oftentimes you may get nothing out of it.
It all comes down to, again, what if everybody lived that way? What if everybody did that? And here's the thing you discover, is that the one who gives the most receives the most.
Yep.
Like the idea of going on a missions trip, where people go in with the idea of, ooh, I'm going to be dirty, I'm going to sleep on a hard bed, I'm going to not eat the food I like. And they go into it with trepidation, but come out feeling like, I wish I could do this my whole life. Mm-hmm. Because the people I've given to, the way I've served, it just feels good inside. It's what we're created to do. We're created to have a contribution. And when we have that mindset of, what can I give? How can I add value? You're contributing. It's great for them, and it's better for you. Yeah. It is more blessed to give than to receive.
Absolutely. So I'll just end on this thought too. When you brought up the missions trip, I think that it's such a good example, because everybody who went knowing their purpose in going. Their purpose was to go there and be of benefit to the people. And I think that that's really what it boils down to, is that really is our purpose. And that's what God calls us to, is he's given us that purpose to go into the world and be a benefit to those around you. And so if we can just have that mindset and focus on it, then boy, wouldn't the world be a completely different place?
Absolutely. So we just want to thank you guys for listening, for joining in with us. Be sure, if you haven't done so, to subscribe, to like, and be sure to add your comments. Feel free to contact us if you have any questions, anything you'd like us to talk about on a future podcast. And we thank you again for joining us. We look forward to having you again with us real soon.